right, everyone. How are you all doing?
Great.
Good. All right, Rachel, can you do an introduction?
Yes, I'd love to do an introduction.
The lovely Jan.
Where is she? Can we see her?
I will find her.
Find her. Where is she? Come in.
I'm here.
There she is. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Welcome, Jan. It's so beautiful to see you. We actually saw Jan yesterday. Yeah, indeed. Recording for the British Fascial Symposium. It's funny, we're seeing each other more, aren't we? In this.
Yeah, it's great. I don't usually see you guys more than every 2 years.
No, that's right. So absolutely thrilled to have Jan with us today. So thank you so much. I know you're very busy organising the first online British Fascial Symposium, which I hope you'll tell everybody about.
I will, yes.
In a minute. So just wanted to say what a brilliant practitioner and organiser and author Jan is actually, and we're delighted to have her here with us today. So she's got a wealth of background in manual therapy, I know cranial work and fascial work, so she's been doing that for many years, and I'm sure she'll tell you a little bit about that. But also several years ago, how many years is it since you started the British Fascial Symposium?
First one was in 2014.
Was it really?
Yeah, and it's every 2 years since then.
Yes. Jan was an absolute mastermind or mistress mind behind bringing up-to-date, fantastic international fascial research and internationally acclaimed speakers to the UK, which everybody has been incredibly grateful to her for. And she did that completely. I mean, she's had a team around her, but completely single-handedly, as far as I could see, managed to get an amazing lineup and has been running that every 2 years since 2014. So an absolute hats off to her for that, because I know that's been an amazing job. And I was also very privileged to actually preview Jan's upcoming book, which I think just slipped in under the publication lockdown from Hans.
Only just. Yeah.
Also our publishers as well. So I was delighted that Jan's got a book out about her work and ScarWork. And Biotensegral, which is fascinating. So just wanted to say a big welcome to her.
Thank you,
a big warm welcome from the JING community. And
I'd
like to hand over without forthwith. And we're loving the background, which is different from the British Symposium background. It's like you're properly, proper professional.
Very professional, Jan. Very professional. And well thought out. It's really great.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to tell you something. You don't want to see what's behind this background. I was thinking, oh my God, it's a bit formal, but at the same time, this is my clinic room in here. And it was a clinic room until 5 weeks ago. And now it's like a TV studio ready for the symposium. So I've got all these flash lights everywhere, and I've got cables gaffer taped to the floor, and I've got this professional background thing that's green. So I just use Zoom and put a thing there so that you can't see it all, but I'm not deliberately being formal. I'm just trying to save your eyes.
Well, you look amazing. The blue and the pink is.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So welcome. I'll hand the virtual floor over to you now. I'm excited to hear your presentation.
Okay. So if I share my screen, you guys can still see me, yeah?
We should be able to.
Should be able to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see if we can get that up then. Okay, so I want to slideshow.
There you go. Yeah, we can see that.
I'm beginning. Yeah, can you see that?
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I think you can put me in the corner if you want to, or you can just listen to my voice, but I know you're all there, and that's the nice thing. I've got people to speak to, and I can see Rachel in the corner, so I'm not on my own here.
You're not on your own.
That's the thing about online, isn't it? Because then you're on a stage, you've got all these eager faces looking at you and clapping and... Yeah, so can you see my cursor if I use my cursor?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Good, we're off then. Excellent. So it's a real privilege to talk about Sharon Wheeler's ScarWork, and thank you. This is my first JING experience. So it's lovely. I can see there seem to be hundreds of you out there, which is brilliant. And so welcome to this. This is a great day. Thank you very much for putting it on. Like Julian says, you're always out there and you're always coming up with something. It's wonderful. And it's really I'm really happy to share this work with you. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say that I met Sharon Wheeler back in 2012 at the Fascia Research Congress back in Vancouver, which is where I had the idea for the Fascia Symposium as well, being more of a practice-led event. And I met Sharon, and I have a scar, so she worked on me, and I was blown away. I can't tell you. Well, when I got home, my mum cried. It was that bad. So she was, oh, I remember when you had that, blah, blah, blah. So, and I was so blown away by the work that I went over there and I trained. And I trained in the ScarWork, and I went back 3 times actually to do different courses with her. And then for the symposium, I got her over to be the first ever post-event workshop. Yeah. And we had 9 people because nobody had ever heard of her. And ever since then, all the courses are full. So it is sort of sweeping around the world. So what I'm going to do is not just rattle on about that, but what I'm going to do is show you a little bit about how I look at a scar, how scars affect you globally, what I'd be looking at, a few little before and after photographs, not case studies per se, but little photographs so that I can show you a little bit of what can happen with scar work as well. Okay, so hopefully you'll just get a bit more of an overall view of scars, because a lot of people think the scars are fine. You know, you can get a nice appendectomy scar, all nice and tidy. We have this tiny little scar on your eyelid, or everything looks nice and fine. And why would it be a problem? But it is a problem. And it's what's going on under the skin that's the problem. The bit you can't see, what lies beneath. So this lady here, this girl, she has, believe it or not, she has a scar. I think it's there. Or is it there? I think it's there. I think that's the skin crease. There's the scar. You can't see it. I put this one in the book because you can't see it. And she came in and she had some work done on it by the students on their first day, you know, when they're just learning. And this is what she said afterwards, because she actually hit herself on a swimming pool 40 years previously. But when she was worked on, it led to freer movement of the area below the lower lip, less attached, neck rotation much easier, less crunching, scar feels smoother, and wire-like line is almost negligible. That wire-like line is when it's really tight and it feels tight. And the scar, the distance between the neck and the shoulders feels extended and relaxed. Now, she was about 4 when this accident happened. So for her, being the way she was her normal, it was her reality. And so what happened here was there was a new normal. And she didn't realize she had a problem here until she didn't have a problem here. And that was just a couple of hours of very gentle work with brand new students playing with this very, very light touch work. So we don't often realize we have an issue till it's resolved. And we think that maybe we're just getting old, or we've always been like that, or maybe everybody else is like that. And then somebody frees it up and you think, oh my God, you know, I didn't know that could even happen. I mean, here's a nice appendectomy scar, lovely and neat and tidy. I mean, nothing wrong with that, is there? Well, there's a slight fold there. There could be a slight adhesion and attachment underneath. It's probably adhered into the ASIS. Adhesions develop with scars, and they stick structures together that shouldn't be stuck together. So you can have a laparoscopy scar and it can be stuck into the bowel. You know, you could have this little scar, it could be stuck into the periosteum of the ASIS. So, but that is going to affect your mobility and functionality. And it may be painful, may be uncomfortable, but it may not be. And it may not affect, it usually doesn't affect or hurt where the actual problem is. As you know there's going to be compensation through the body. You're going to feel it distal to the scar quite often. So how does your scar feel? And these are things that my clients have said to me over the years. And it's like not being whole inside. Like my body isn't as strong anymore. Like my top and bottom half don't connect anymore. That is really common with cesareans. A constant ache, nothing, no sensation or feeling. I don't like touching it. And if you've got somebody with a cesarean scar who doesn't like touching her scar, you've only got to think, okay, if she doesn't like touching her cesarean scar, she's not going to want her partner to touch it. So something like a cesarean scar that you don't feel like touching can have a major effect on your relationship. Worth thinking about. So what's going on underneath? What's really going on? If the scar looks fine on top, what's going on underneath? So obviously we've got the fascia. We all know about the fascia by now, the type of connective tissue, a type of connective tissue, primarily made of protein, elastin, ground substance, which is mucus, very high water content. And it's strong, sometimes like cobwebs, sometimes like cling film. And it depends how it looks and how strong it is, depends on where it is in the body and what function it serves. Because it surrounds every structure in the body, right down at the cellular level. And whether it's the periosteum, the pericardium, whether it's bursa, whether it's the pleura, that's all fascia. Okay, so it surrounds and it creates the compartments in the body, and it separates things from the body, and it allows glide over from one structure over another. And when I was a nurse, we knew about fascia, as we called it. It provided it allowed structures to slide over each other, and it protected things. And that's all we were taught in, was it 3 or 4 years nursing training? 3 years, I think. And so because it covers everything, and because everything is continuous, when fascia is damaged, the effect can go body-wide, because that effect will cascade through the tissues. Now, it can either go a little bit, maybe in a little cut under the chin, or majorly, cesarean, appendectomy, even a laparoscopy has got the potential to have quite a wide effect over the surrounding tissues, not just local but global in the body. And it can exert a tensile strength of up to 2,000 pounds per square inch, the fascia. So it is perfectly capable of pulling joints and vertebrae out of alignment, leaving the body out of balance. So, it all looks very innocuous and your scar looks fine, but then what lies beneath? And here we go. This is a bit of lamb shank here, and this is the fascia here. The gristle, the fascia, the sheathing. If you have a chicken breast, that nice fine sheathing over the chicken breast, over the muscle, essentially, that's the fascia. Okay. So it's all connected. Just think of it as a matrix, a body-wide matrix, like a netting, if you like, if you want to think of it really simply, and it connects everything, but 3-dimensionally. Okay, and because it's 3-dimensional, you've got this straitjacket effect, tightening around the organs, the joints, and the other structures. And I remember on a dissection course, and that was the irony of it. I was with Gil Headley and Julian Baker on a course, my first ever dissection course, and I chose to dissect a man who'd had open heart surgery. And I dissected it right down, and the adhesions were right down into the pericardium, which is really interesting because, of course, that would have created restriction, constriction around the heart, ironically, over the years. The fascial distortion limits the mobility, the elasticity, the expansion, the flow of the body. We're flowing organic beings. But if we have a restriction, whether it's scars or something else, many things can restrict our mobility. But it's one of those things that will almost inevitably create a restriction to some extent or another. And it's incremental damage. We think, I'm just getting older, or my knees are a bit crick, or this, or I can't breathe as well. But it's incremental, and we get used to it as our new normal. This is our new paradigm, our new way of being. And we think, oh, well, I'm older now, so it's fine. It's normal, but it's not necessarily normal. Like the girl with the chin, she didn't even know what normal was. We know what normal was, but we forget it. We just put it down to age. And we can end up with misalignment, imbalance, compensation patterns, pain, and structural instability, which is a big thing. Because the body's compensating, the body's adapting around this scar, which in its own little way is having this tiny insidious effect that is then cascading through the tissues and creating more effect and linking into the periosteum, misaligning bones, linking into the bowel and creating restriction in the bowel. I've known a strangulated bowel just come from a couple of laparoscopies, and they did that on a girl in her late teens. And it was just investigations because of her period pains. Bad period pains, admittedly. Compensation, don't really need to go through compensation with you, but as we're on the subject, the body works around the injury, the scarring, it adapts. It's incredible how it adapts. But internal tension and torque, that's like a 3-dimensional twisting in the tissues, especially you see it in in the abdomen. You can often see the torque. You look at them and the body is twisted. The navel is off to one side. The hips are out of alignment. And there's no apparent reason. So find out if they've had a laparoscopy. Find out if they've had an appendectomy, laminectomy, cesarean, all valid. Internal forces end up pulling against each other, which is exactly what we don't want. You know, we want integrated flow and connection in the body. But very difficult. You know, a massage is not going to solve that. And some fascial work is not going to solve that. So you have to work on the scar. Which brings us to Sharon Wheeler. Now, Sharon, I met back in the Fascia Research Congress in 2012 when she did my scar. And she's a dear lady. And she trained with Ida Rolf. Well, it was 40 years ago when I met her. That was, 8 years ago, nearly 50 years ago. And she worked out how to work with scars, and she didn't even realize she had something special. And she's been developing these techniques for decades. And I say technique, it's an approach, really. It's an approach. It's looking, and she writes about how to approach a scar in the book that I'm going to tell you about at the end. She does a chapter on that. And very interesting how she looks at it. And I've learned over the years, and being a teacher, to look at the scar in a very different way. You've got to look at it three-dimensionally. And we have very little research. There are some ultrasound scans in the book, but really we don't have much else. But we are raising money through the ScarWork, therapists and anybody else who we can persuade to give us money. We want the research. We want to improve it, because the NHS is really taking to this. And in a couple of the major teaching hospitals, they're starting clinical trials themselves because they're impressed by the work, which is really great. So we really want to get the NHS accepting this, and NICE accepting this. Okay, so first example. Now this lady, she was in her 50s at the time. You can see that at some point in her teens, she did have some tendon surgery, but she doesn't know, she can't remember what it was for, and her mother had died herself, so she had nobody who could remember. But you can bet your bottom dollar that no self-respecting surgeon would leave scars like this. And if you look at how the little toes tucked under and this toes tucked under, and this was just a snap before I really understood how important it was to take the photos. So one of my students had done just a beginner's session with me, and I said, okay, go home, find a nice little uncomplicated scar to work on. So her neighbor had this. And of course it is relatively uncomplicated scar. It looks innocuous enough until you start looking at the distortion in the foot, and then you imagine in the body the kind of compensation patterns that would have been developing around maybe 30-35 years of this surgery. Okay, so Sarah Strong, she worked for 2 one-hour sessions on this foot. And this is how it ended up. So I'm just going to go back. 2 one-hour sessions, this happened. Now, that's looking a little straighter. These scars are looking a bit straighter, aren't they? She likes her feet now. She's got a nail polish on. Look at the difference here and the space between the toes. And I'm going to give you a before and after. There you go. So you can see. Now then, she was due for surgery 3 months later around Christmas time, to have a revision of the scars. And this is what they often do, is they cut out the scars and they clear all the scar tissue and the adhesions and they sew it up again. But unfortunately, and it's, you know, it's a good idea, but unfortunately, you know what's going to happen in 5 years' time, don't you? More adhesions, highly likely. So after this, of course, this lady needed a lot of work, fascial work, really, to relieve all the compensation patterns and to repattern her, really, because she was totally, as you can see, favouring and working around that foot. So that was the first one, actually, the first few pictures we ever took, and they're still, I think, really impressive and get the point over. Now, this is somebody more recent. Now, actually, believe it or not, he tried to stop people fighting outside a pub and got stabbed with a sword. A sword. Now, that's the sword mark there. But because his life was in danger, he was going to die, probably. They took him to emergency and they literally cut him open top to bottom. And that's what they do. It gives them enough room to be able to get in here, look at all the structures that have been damaged by the sword and get in there. You know, it's not an aesthetic Answer: it's emergency surgery. It's not elective, it's emergency. Look how the navel's been distorted. Look at the roughness of this, how, you know, how it's changed. And then look, now this gentleman had had 2 sessions with my students. This was the 2nd session. So let me just go back to this one. And now he'd had 1 session before, about a year before, and we'd worked on here, and we'd done a little bit of work on the scar, the sword scar. And then this session we did more work with the students, and then I did some indirect fascial release techniques as well to just generally release the musculature and the fascia in the abdomen. So you can see that is a nice result. He was very pleased with that. And you can see the navel, and I don't think the navel's going to be any different ever, because they literally cut up and they go around the navel and up, you know. So that is going to be pulling in still. This you can see is less concave. Can you see that huge groove down there? That's less concave. So I think you can see there's more balance, there's more integration. The tissue, when I talk about integration, I'm talking about the tissues working in harmony with each other, as opposed to being disparate, like a jigsaw puzzle that's, you know, like half done, as opposed to a jigsaw puzzle that slots together. When you put the puzzles pieces together and you think, that piece has got to go there, you know, you push it in and it doesn't go. And that does go. So that's what we're talking about, integration, really. And local integration will help integrate the whole tissues, because, as we know, everything is continuous. So that was him. That was actually earlier this year. And then on the same course, because we get on the ScarWork courses, we get the students work on each other for the first 2 days, and then for days 3 and 4 we invite members of the public in, and they have work from the students under supervision. So this lady, this again was an emergency. This was an appendectomy. So you can see she's got a couple of little laparoscopy scars here. It's actually clearer on the second picture, but they literally, again, emergency, cut her open, pubic bone to navel. So just so that they can get to all this area and sort it out quickly and save her life. Yeah. But the interesting thing is here, look at this pleating effect. Look how the navel is pulling slightly down here. Can you see this bagging effect here and here? And the pleating, it's curved up, then down, up, then down, up, then down, concave, concave, convex, concave, convex. So this is really tight here, and it's pulling, I think that is pulling into a pre-existent scar, the laparoscopy. And you often see this under the skin, that the scars, one scar you get away with more than 2 scars, because they actually, the degraded tissue appears to feed into scar to scar. And not just scar to scar, but if you had degraded tissue from, say, holding a baby on your hip for years and years and years, you know, one baby after the other, then the degraded tissue from the scarring does feed into that area. So we don't know what she's got. We haven't got that kind of history for her. It wasn't a case study, but you can see there's a join there, and also the deep groove here, and how she's leaning to her left. Yeah, look at that deep groove compared with there. Yeah, so we did have, again, for 1 session only. Ta-da. So, as you can see, look at that navel. Look at the way the navel's changed. Now the navel looks nearly normal now, doesn't it? You can see now she's had a belly button scar in there as well. Belly button, you know, stud. Yeah, there it is. See, that's not going to help either. Apart from the fact that these things are on the governor vessel, I think it is in acupuncture, main acupuncture line down the body. It's the governor. I'm not an acupuncturist. So the groove has gone here. The pleating has calmed down. You can see there's a little bit here. You can see the laparoscopy scars here and here now, and I think there's another one there. So let's just do next to each other here. Now that was 1 2-hour session with students. I didn't get involved at all here. This is just what the students did on their own, under supervision. Yeah, but simply putting the Sharon Wheeler ScarWork techniques approach into practice. It's very light work. You know, it's very easy to do. It's very easy on the client, and it's easy on the therapist. It shouldn't hurt. If it hurts, you're doing something wrong. It's light touch. you know, and I haven't got time to go into light touch here, but basically think of mechanotransduction is the term for the translation of touch and pressure down through the tissues to cellular level. Okay, and I'm going to talk more about that at the British Fascia Symposium, the power of following the tissue I'm talking about. So I shall touch lightly on that. And also John Sharkey at the symposium is going to go more deeply into mechanotransduction. So if you're interested in that, that is going to be an interesting one for you. So that's it with some examples just to show what the ScarWork can do. And you can see why I'm so hooked on it. It's so easy to do. The minute you try too much, it doesn't work so well. You've got to learn to relax and just go with the skin, go with the tissue and follow the tissue. So to have a quick recap here, scar tissue can affect all the fascial planes. And remember that fascia is, you know, enveloping, surrounding, connecting every structure in the body. So you've got that cascade, that not domino, but dominoes are separate things, aren't they? They're not linked. But if you think of a cascade of change going through the tissues from one part of the body to wherever, really. I mean, and it's unique to everybody because we've all got our own personal muscle patternings, you know, in our body, the muscle holding patterns. So that's really going to affect as well how the scarring affects your body, because it's all down again to internal forces. And the body adapting around that change in the internal forces. And again, Graham's scar goes into that in a chapter in the book I'm going to tell you about. So I can't cover it all here. So, but if you're interested, you know, there's more out about this stuff. Adhesions can have a body-wide effect. The strength of the adhesions means that joints, bones, and organs, and in fact any structure in the body, can all be affected by misalignment, misbalance, and reduced functionality can and probably will result. But scars and adhesions can be softened and integrated back into the fascial web. It can happen. And normal integrity of the fascia can be restored to a greater or lesser extent. I mean, obviously some people, they're literally chopped up, you know, their abdomens is just scar after scar after scar. And if it started with one scar and then they've had adhesions, they've had revision of the scar, they've got more adhesions, then something else has happened, and the poor things, you know, they're in a terrible state. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that normal integrity of the fascia can be restored. But their body we will do a lot for it, but their body will learn to adapt around as well. And that's the wonder of the body, isn't it? How it will always optimize functionality and mobility. So where are we? Oh, final thought. So when you're taking a scar history, a history from a client, think about the scars. I did not understand when I didn't really know much about scars. Excuse me. I didn't understand. I was doing massage and I was even doing body realignment, which is fascial work. And still people were going back sometimes into their old patterns. And I didn't understand why not. Why? And now I understand. And the first thing I do is the scar. You know, because once you've released the scar, you're making life easier for yourself and for them. And you need to integrate afterwards. You know, you need to leave them as comfortable as possible in their own body. But if you don't do the scar, then it's like trying to straighten out a tea towel while you're grabbing a corner. You can't lie that tea towel flat while you're grabbing the corner, because the effect of that grabbing radiates through the tea towel. Let go of that, or at least ease it out, and that tea towel will lie flatter. Yeah. If the client's not responding to treatment, the scar will need work. And it's not possible to realign or rebalance somebody if they have internal torsion and distortion due to adhesions. It just isn't possible. And I hope I've made it clear why, that it's just not possible to do that. You need to address that major restriction, which is having a three-dimensional effect, locally or globally, through the body. So scar healing restores mobility and elasticity to damaged tissue to a greater or lesser extent. As I say, you know, some people are in a very bad way, and some people's tissues do respond better, and some people are more prone to adhesions. And I always encourage clients to have work done on new scars to prevent damage down the line. And they say, oh, I've got to go in and have something done, and they're going to go through the old scar, clear out the adhesions, and then do this new operation through it. And I think, yeah, well, as soon as you're discharged by the surgeon, let's get to work on that and prevent worse things happening. So I was told half an hour, so we've gone through, that's half an hour. So I'm just going to run you through my final slides, and then happy to take some questions for the last 10-15 minutes. So I'm Body and Harmony Training, and this is Sharon Wheeler's ScarWork. This is the logo that all our therapists are allowed to use. And Sharon Wheeler herself teaches around the world. I teach in the UK and abroad. So yeah, worth contacting either of us if you're interested. Now then, what's the next one? Oh yeah, my baby. 3 years ago,
Hey.
I had an idea. I know.
Great.
And Rachel was there on the peer review. It was amazing. I got this review back of my proposal to Handspring, and there's Rachel's name. Thank you, Rachel. It worked. We got it published.
A great proposal. Great.
Oh, thank you. Well, it certainly was with a difference, I guess. This covers all the buzzwords of the moment for sure. Scars, fascia, and biotensegrity, all really fascinating subjects. And we covered a lot in here. I'm not an expert on biotensegrity, so I brought in the people who are. That's Joanne Avison, Leonid Bloom, Graham Scarr, and John Sharkey are all writing in this book. And then we've also got contributions from Wojciech Kakowski, Neil Galloway, a surgeon, very well-known surgeon in the States, Tracy Kiernan of Blame Therapy, and Katerina Steventon, Dr. Katerina Steventon, who is an esthetician and has talked about the emotional envelope that is the skin. So well, I mean, I'm biased, you know, but I think it's got some fascinating content. But you're not going to hear anything else from me, are you? But Robert Schleip and Carol Davis thought so too. They've been kind enough to give us forwards. Now, so it's actually, I only got my advance copy this week, Monday. So we think it's going to be available from next week, but obviously with the lockdown, we're sort of slipping on and off of planes and boats, trying to get everything to England. But what you can do is if you go to Handspring Publishing here, and you use this code, TREW JING 20, you'll get 20% off, which is really unusual, but I think for a launched book, but I think Handspring are really being understanding of the fact that we're not working, you know, so this is a chance to get it for £31.20 instead of £39. Yeah, so yeah, that's my baby, three years. Sorry.
Amazing. It's such a beautiful presentation. I'm going to unmute everybody so everybody can say thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm just going to put this up. Just going to put this up because
thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
I'm just going to leave this up because we're all speaking now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the appreciation. We're all speaking. Jing are doing an amazing webinar on fibromyalgia, and I'm talking about the power of of following the tissue. And who was it? Julian Baker. Julian is showing his brand new film, Connected Connectivity. It's a 20-minute film. It has never been shown before in the world. So it's the first global screening at the British Fascia Symposium. And we're on the 15th to the 19th of May, and tickets are on sale until the end of the 8th of May. So that's Bank Holiday Friday. The evening is the last time you can get a ticket. Okay, so that's it really. So let me just unshare.
Right.
Stop share.
And you've got loads of questions.
Oh, great.
Oh, so can you see the
Chat.
Can you see the chat?
Yeah, I can. Thank you, Jen. Oh, thank you very much. Oh yeah, yeah. If you have a scar, you can come on the courses as a model. You don't have to come and train. You can just come and be a model. That's right. Thank you, Ali. Right. I need to sort of scroll down, I suppose. Do I? Yeah.
There's a question here from Nina Gregory asking if there
helpful.
can be anything done for vascular scarring, post-thrombotic syndrome, for example.
Interesting. Yeah, I've not done it myself, but yes, as long as it's very well healed and the surgeons gives, you know, once you're discharged by the surgeon, we can work. And because it's very light touch, and because of the mechanotransduction aspect of all this light touch work, the touch transmits itself down to cellular level. So what you're going to get is we've got certain moves that send vibration and send vibration essentially down through the fascia to the structures underneath. So I've worked with, for example, with endometriosis. You know, it's not internal. The work's not internal. Endometriosis is internal. Yeah. So I'm working there, sending a vibration and a certain kind of touch down with intention as well into the endometriosis. So I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work on vascular surgery. But, you know, you have to be sure that the surgeon had discharged, and it was, you know, I'd probably leave in a little bit longer just to ensure that everything was really well healed. Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm going to unmute Albert because he has a question around cording. So now Albert does a lot of scar work. So go ahead,
Albert.
Hi there, Jan. Nice to see you.
Hi. What's your last name, Albert?
Albert Dutoit.
Ah, hello. Hi. I thought it was another Albert I knew, but hi. Nice to meet you.
That was like your opinion on cording after like lumpectomy and that sort of thing. Would you classify that as a scar as well?
Well, yes. I mean, it is. We do work with cording. That's not actually taught in the main ScarWork course, but Emma Holly, who's another UK tutor, does a lot of work with people after breast cancer, and she teaches a postgrad course for ScarWork therapists, and she covers cording in that. But yes, you can improve it.
Because it seems like a subject that's very little researched on. So
yeah, it is. Yeah, I think Emma just basically worked out how to do it. That's the thing, when you become a ScarWork therapist, you think, I should be able to do something about that. And so you have a go, and you invent things.
As well, so
Sorry?
I'm experimenting with it a lot at the moment as well, with ScarWork and the light touch approach.
Have you done the ScarWork course, have you, Albert?
Not your one yet.
Right, no, there are other techniques available.
I'll definitely look into that. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Albert.
We get to the question about how long do we need to leave between sessions for the body to integrate and heal the scar?
Yeah, we recommend 3 weeks, because what happens is when you've done the work, the body seems to take it and take it further. It's quite fascinating. We initiate a process with what we're doing. So I might work for 20 minutes, half an hour, 3/4 of an hour on a scar, and the rest of my session is integration. Yeah. And then I won't see them for 3 weeks. There's no point in them wasting their money and the time coming in before that, because there's no need. Really, the body will take it, and the next time you see the scar, I take pictures with their permission when they leave, when they come in, when they leave, and then when they come back, and there is a massive difference. And I'm sure the scars I showed you earlier of the gentleman's abdomen and the lady's lower abdomen with the appendectomy, I'm sure that, weeks down the line, they looked better than the photos I showed you. They will have done.
Yeah. There's loads of questions here, and there's lots of people that are saying that they've done some work with you and Emma Holly, and saying it's been really, really incredibly transformative.
Thank you. I'm glad.
Another question around the last question. Can you see that one? I just lost it again.
No. Can you read it out?
Okay. Osteomyelitis, left medial ankle, contributing to any thoughts about it contributing to psoas or pelvic discomfort?
What, a scar? The scarring?
Yeah.
Well, yes, because everything is connected. Yes, absolutely. Be transmitted via the fascia, via the periosteum. It's perfectly feasible. Now, it's not necessarily going to be the only contributory factor. If you've got an old injury there, or another scar, or like I say, if you've been carrying a handbag on your shoulder for years, because that will affect your posture. It'll affect your hips, or carrying a baby on one hip, or pulling a suitcase behind you for, every time you go abroad, if you're like air stewardess, all of those things create RSI and create their own individual muscle patterning, which will lead to tissue that is a bit degenerated, degraded, and then scar tissue can feed into that, from my experience.
Great. And then there was another question around your course. People asking loads of things around your courses, like, is the July course still going ahead as far as you know?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know. I've left it up there. If you want to book, then do, just to make sure you get a place, because the book's out now. I deliberately have not got many courses, any more courses uploaded. I've got the Glasgow one and the July one in North London at NLSSM, Susan Findley's lovely venue. You saw Susan earlier, didn't you?
Yeah,
I've got that booked, and you know, if we can't, if we're still on lockdown, heaven forbid, then we will have to move it. But I'm gambling by middle of July we might be able to run it. But you know, if you book and you know we have to move it, there's no penalty. You know, you can either cancel or I'll move you to the next one. You know, I'm not going to penalise people. We're all in a very different situation at the moment, so we'll be fair about that. But if you want to make sure you get a place and you want to book, great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'd say to all of you who are JING students out there, I think Jan's work resonates very well with what we do at JING. Those of you who've done the myofascial courses in terms of listening touch and following the tissue. And I know a lot of people have gone on to Jan's courses after doing our one-day introduction in SCAR and have really got a lot out of it. You know, as Jan says, you get case histories, you get to work on supervision, and you get a different model, which is really brilliant. So I know loads of JING students have got a lot out of that. And I'd also urge people to buy the book, both to support Jan's work. Also lovely to see on there all the other authors who are contributing, including Tracy Kiernan, who's one of our first JING students ever and taught for us for many years. So was a valued member of the JING community. So lovely to see her getting her experience and her work out there as well. And also to support Handspring, who are amazing. I'm sure you'd support me in this, Jan.
They've been amazing.
Amazing group of
patient.
Who are doing amazing things for the manual therapy world. And obviously their sales of books have not been booming during lockdown, so also supporting them. So I think whatever we can do to all support each other is really valuable. I'm getting a lot of people here saying ScarWork fits in perfectly with all our JING-tastic skills.
Yeah, I know we've had a lot of JING students on the ScarWork course.
Yeah, we've had great reports back about your work.
Oh, thank you. Can I just pick up on one question I saw coming up? As I think I've got a couple of minutes. Somebody said, sorry?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. So somebody, I didn't catch the name, but somebody said, when do you know when to stop on a scar? When do you step back? And the thing is really not to overwork the tissue. So like I say, if I'm doing an hour with somebody, I might do 20, 30 minutes on the scar. It's all it needs. And then I'll do the rest of it is integration. And quite often on the integration, that's brilliant, because what happens is that it'll give a chance for them to sink deeper. And quite often that'll allow the emotional content of the scar to come up, because, you know, you can't, as you know, and I know that Rachel and Megan are teaching you, because I know they're both into the psychosocial side of everything, is that there is no such thing as the mind separated from the body. If you have a scar, you are going to get an emotional content. So that will come up during the integration aspect. And that is just as important as the physical work. It really is just as important. So step back, don't overwork the scar. If it starts getting red, definitely stop. Don't do anything abrasive on something like a hypertrophic or keloid scar, raised scar, you know, just very, very gentle, light work. And if it's not responding, go lighter. Because if it's not responding to light touch, maybe you're being too heavy. And, you know, I used to do deep massage. I've had to learn as well. You know, you've got to go lightly. Okay? You don't have to be quite as light as MLD, manual lymph drainage, but pretty well. It's light work. And then you can work your way in. You can get a little bit deeper, more firm, but the lighter the touch, the better. You get more effect. And there is some research out to that, but I haven't got time to go into that one. But by Leonard Bloom and Mark Driscoll, there is some research that shows that the lighter the medium and the less intrusive the medium, the greater the effect on the cells.
Absolutely. Less is more. We're very into that.
Always. I know you are. I thought you would be.
One of our laws. Yeah, without any doubt. Yeah. Amazing. Also, a lot of people are asking if there's any online training in it, Jan.
No.
Okay.
No.
But the presentation.
We want to supervise people.
Yeah, sure. But the stuff at the British Fascial Symposium people can access online. Maybe you want to.
Yes, I'm going to be interviewing Sharon Wheeler as part of the symposium. Yeah, I think it's either the Monday or the Tuesday in the afternoon. And what we are going to be giving out there is a link, which is the same as you get when you get the book. And it's a private link to 5 ScarWork techniques that Sharon has videoed. They're
Right.
very simple. You can't go wrong with them. You can't do anything wrong with them. As long as you do them lightly, you cannot hurt anybody. You can't, they are simple, light techniques. And so you're going to get the link to that if at the Fascia Symposium, or you'll get them via the book. Yeah.
Amazing. Great.
And that's seeing Sharon. Until you've seen Sharon's hands worked, you've seen nothing. You've never seen such flexible, worked, lived in, beautiful hands. They're like, there's somebody called them platypus hands, and they mold and meld into the body. It's quite amazing to see.
I think it's an absolute privilege to work with anybody who's worked directly with Ida Rolf and has had that level of clinical experience.
We count ourselves very lucky.
Yes, absolutely.
Number 2 in the chain and number 3 in the chain. God.
Absolutely, in the lineage. Amazing. And how can people book onto the British Fascial Symposium?
Okay, so it's fasciasymposium.co.uk. I'm afraid we do charge for tickets. It is $239, but you get 5 half days. So from 12 o'clock till 9 o'clock, from Friday to Tuesday, 15th to the 19th, you have got practically non-stop movement classes like Linus that Julian was talking about. I think he's on the Saturday. That's going to be a hot and sweaty class. That looks great. I can't wait. You've got, it looks fantastic. Don't you just need to move in this lockdown? You just need to move, don't you? And there's gyrotonics. There's Elizabeth Larkin with Pilates. There's movement classes. There are clinical application classes like yours. Your one you've done for the fibromyalgia, that you're doing for fibromyalgia, where really people are teaching you certain things, but not teaching you techniques as such, but teaching you how to adapt your modality to take on board this new information. Robert Schleip is running a clinical applications class on Friday, and then he's doing a keynote lecture on research update on the Friday night. We've got Gil Headley, keynote speaker again, letting us in for the first time. I mean, this is the first time it's been shown, his last explorations recently on his dissection. We've got John Sharkey, we've got David Lazondak, we've got Sue Hitzman, Till Lukow, Julian Baker. Who else? Loads of people. Jing. We've got loads of people. And Sharon Wheeler. And the agenda's on the Fascia Symposium website. And you'll see that most of the stuff you can access afterwards, either till May the 20th, which is the day after the event finishes, or till June the 30th. And that depends on copyright issues. That's down to the presenter to choose that. But you can get access to every single one of those webinar presentations after the event. So if you miss one, it doesn't matter. Get up early the next morning and watch it. Yeah? And you get your money's worth.
It's a fantastic lineup, Jan. It's like a live aid for body work. It's like really a fantastic lineup there.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's very exciting. And it's a steep learning curve going online, but I'm just refused to lie down and just cancel it. Goodness me. After we've done 18 months of work on this already. Yeah. So we've now done another 2 months very intensive work moving it online, but it's all looking good. Oh my God, we're going to have breakout rooms as well, virtual breakout rooms. Wow. So you can meet with people from the other side of the world, people So if you want to, just put your profile in, and then your little face comes up on the page, and people can go, oh look, there's Rachel, there's Megan, let's connect, and you can go and book a breakout room and go and have coffee and a chat. And we're going to have some breakout rooms where some of the presenters are going to talk about other things as well, in parallel to the main stage. So there's lots of stuff. Yeah.
Brilliant. Is that a breakout Zoom, is it?
Zoom.
No, it is a platform that sits on top of Zoom. Yeah. Yeah. So it's linked with Zoom, but it's a different platform.
Enough people have been singing Who's Zooming Who. Like, I just feel like that should be happening. Who's zooming who?
Oh, it still doesn't replace the hugs and the touch.
No, we all miss that. But
and I just have to say a word that JING, last time in 2018, and we're going to do it again this year, have been so generous, lending us their therapy couches that everybody could have the workshops. So thank you again for the thought this year. We're not going to need you, sadly, another time maybe.
Another time.
But, JING have been very supportive of the BFS. And I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thank you, love. Thank you so much for such an amazing presentation. And I really totally appreciate the wealth of clinical information and intellectual information that you've generously chosen to share there. So
thank you. It's a
absolutely
pleasure.
fantastic.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and just Meg and I always have each other, so I have a lot of admiration for everybody who's been presented by themselves, because it's quite a different
I was
format.
feeling the same. I was like, wow, very challenging, elegant, and eloquent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right,
It's been a
so,
pleasure.
yeah. Take care.
Thank you,
Jan.
everybody, for listening. It's
Lovely to
lovely.
see us. Tor suggested we all meet for you know, an after conference glass of fizz, which is
That
what she
sounds
always did
good.
anyway. So
What
maybe
time's that?
3:00 apparently. So
Oh, is it? Oh, we've got 40 minutes.
maybe, yeah,
I'm going to stick around for the
Hang out with
meditation
us and
now.
meditate, which is quite a moving experience.
Yeah, I'm going to stick around for that. That sounds a wonderful gift to give everybody. Thank you.
okay.
I'm going to turn my video off so I don't distract everybody with my formal background. But I'm here still, and I'm going to be meditating with everybody. Thank you for that
Beautiful.
gift.
Thanks,
Thank
Jan.
you, love.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
You too.